After seeing a very strange article this morning on spiders, I decided to do a quick video collection on the possible spider Emmys from 2018 and just see where my research takes me. In northern Mexico, a photographer was hiking with his father and they came across what appeared to be a furry black creature taking a nap in a nook on a rocky slope. When they gently stirred the creature to find out what it was, not sure I would have done the same thing. Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. Anyway, this fur ball then exploded into thousands of little spiders. And here is the tell as far as I'm concerned that this is some kind of quantum shifting. The photographer then says, "This is the first time I've seen something like this." It turns out that the hairs were in reality numerous legs of thousands of spiders, and they were so close together it looked like a ball of hair. It is believed that these spiders were a type of harvestmen, a harmless, slender-limbed species known to amass in large groups like this, likely as a defense from the harsh sun. The harvestmen appear later on again in this video in another article. At the time of posting this article on giant spiderwebs on a Greek lake in November of last year, the only cases known, as far as I'm concerned, were Australia and Greece. I just Googled Australia because I wanted to add this now to the video and put the link below, and I could remember posting this. What do you know? Now there are reports on giant spiderwebs in Jerusalem, Great Britain, Pakistan, Tasmania, New Zealand, Texas, and Memphis in the USA. Of course there are. As you can see from the images, a large network of spiderwebs stretched over half a mile, blanketing a Greek lake and surrounding town. The dense webs house hordes of spiders and completely drape vegetation, roads, and buildings all over town. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. The article goes on to say, the webs are the creation of hundreds of thousands of spiders of the genus Tetragnatha, tiny creatures measuring no larger than 0.7 inches. The water-loving arachnids are common to the area and are often referred to as stretch spiders due to their elongated bodies, or also known as orb weavers because of the type of web they weave. While their presence isn't unusual, locals generally don't see them in these numbers. Scientists blame the population explosion on high temperatures and humidity, coupled with the year's remarkable mosquito population boom. Events of this magnitude are rare, but large webs can sometimes be seen in other areas of the country. Biologists report that the phenomenon occurs every 3 to 5 years when the weather becomes unseasonably warm and humid. While the webs are a bit eerie, the plentiful spiders are not harmful to humans. In fact, their presence is actually beneficial due to the fact that they reduce the mosquito population. Russell Watkins from the Department of International Development was travelling through Pakistan when he came across a scene so surreal that stopped him in his tracks. Nothing really prepared us for what we saw when we got there. What we were confronted with was quite spectacular. Every tree and vegetation that you could see for miles and miles was just cloaked with these enormous webs. Silk specialist Chris Holland thinks he has the answer. This is actually, says Chris, a very simple and natural process. Because of the floods in Pakistan at the time, 2010, it forced the spiders to take refuge further up on dry land, and in particular, high land. In this case, the trees. The types of spiders that you see here are sheet web spiders. Here is a funnel web at Lake Tawakoni State Park in Texas. This supposedly happened in 2007. Here they are saying that it's a funnel web. Although no one has given a definitive answer, many spider experts conclude that the stretch spiders are working together to form the massive web. Some say that these webs happen every few years, while others say it is a rarity. There we have typical contradictory information that usually comes with quantum shifting. A field in New Zealand has been covered in a 30-meter weave spider web. The Bay of Plenty was blanketed over the weekend by the natural phenomenon fondly known as spider bum parachutes, or otherwise known as ballooning. Spider expert Dr. Cor Vink said the spider's mass exodus to a higher ground was due to the heavy downpour in New Zealand over the past week. Spiders often do the same thing with shrubs, crops and trees as seen in Pakistan last year. A similar event occurred in Tasmania and southern Australia last year. The rally of high-flying spiders, known as a mass ballooning event, occurs when spiders crawl to the highest points of their habitat, say a fence pole or a tall plant, and send out silk strands that allow them to be lifted on air currents. While unusual for spiders to create a web of this size, experts speculate that recent flooding caused the spiders to seek higher ground. This means many spiders collaborated to produce the massive silken web. Major flooding in the Australian state of Tasmania has forced spiders to evacuate, according to this article, by using silken threads as hot air balloons. These young arachnids, spotted in Tennessee, were throwing out silk to fly to new territory when wind likely grounded them, expert says. A biologist and expert in spider silk, Todd Blackledge, couldn't identify the spider species from the photos available, but he says they could be orb-weaving and sheet-weaving spiders migrating. Spiders, however, need the wind. Please note that sentence. This was in the article, and this is quite significant later. Spiders, however, need the wind to cooperate in order to pull off their remarkable migrations. Precisely what didn't happen in Tennessee. In fact, Blackledge suspects that the sheet-like web visible in photos from Memphis isn't a web at all. Instead, the mass of silken threads are evidence of the spider's failed attempts at ballooning. Cued by favourable conditions, perhaps warm ground temperatures, which could generate updrafts, the young spiders would have tried to send out their ballooning threads at more or less the same time. However, unexpectedly strong breezes could have then blown these threads back down onto the grass over and over again, eventually creating a tangled mat. The spiders here have shrouded entire trees in giant glittering cobwebs on a scale rarely seen in the Middle East. The Sorek watercourse reportedly contains treated sewage, which is rich in nutrients. Lovely. This aids the proliferation of mosquitoes, which then serve as a food source for the spiders, spurring a reproductive boom. It's an exceptional case, arachnophile Igor Armikach, a doctoral student at Hebrew University's Arachnid Collection, told Reuters. So here we have 7 different events of a similar nature, with slightly varying theories and spider species. I'm just saying, right? Apparently, there is some confusion as to what kind of spider is making these. This actually doesn't really make sense to me, because can they not see the spiders in the web? So surely they can identify the spider in this way? I don't get it. I don't get why there is so much confusion. One expert says it is an orb weaver, another says it's a funnel weaver, and yet another says sheet weaver. Granted, a funnel weaver can make sheet webs, so that may explain the confusion there. But as I said, why not just observe the spiders themselves? Or maybe this is just a typical example of conflicting history updates whilst quantum shifting is in the making. When I first saw this about 2 years ago, people were debunking it, saying, nope, there is no such thing as flying spiders. It's a hoax. Then it gradually developed into a real thing with history. And since then, I have noticed that the history has also developed. Not the history within the last couple of years. I'm talking about the history of this particular subject that goes way back. Again, for me, this is typical of quantum shifting. First, nobody knew how spiders were doing this. Then the explanations changed to ballooning, but still they didn't know how the ballooning was occurring, and that spiders could only fly a few yards. Now it has become hundreds of miles. But even this information is a little vague. Okay, so they don't fly in the traditional sense, in that they have wings, but they can still fly, or rather paraglide. And the point here is that the history of this phenomenon is gradually changing. Even though the explanation in this article is new, from a new experiment and new data, the pure fact that Darwin, or rather that it is documented that Darwin already knew that spiders could travel thousands of miles, tell me that this has been mandected. This was not the case months before. In July 2018, a few articles came out saying that they had finally figured out that ballooning was basically spiders harnessing electric fields. Some of the articles stated that this was already a theory, but that it just had not yet been proven. This is also an ME to some. Also, what is new is that spiders take to the skies en masse. Just the thought of thousands of spiders simultaneously tiptoeing, preparing themselves to propel themselves into the skies is completely bizarre to me. But this is what is going on now, and this is what they're doing, hence the giant spider webs. So what exactly is ballooning? Well, it's a kind of paragliding, and scientists have now linked it to electric fields, although I do believe they are still not 100% sure how spiders tap into this. In an experiment, a group of spiders was subjected to an environment where electric fields were switched on and off and their behavior noted. When the electric fields were switched on, the spiders would begin standing on the tops of their legs, proudly sticking their abdomens out. This practice is called tiptoeing due to its similarity to the human stance. Spiders only hold this pose when they're ready to balloon away. It was also noted that spiders can detect electric fields. This was seen by the way the tiny sensory hairs on their feet ruffled, much like the way hair rises when rubbed with a balloon, the moment the electric field was switched on. When it was switched off, the spiders would then drop. Shooting strands of silk into the air to create a kind of sail, they then paraglide into the air. Many spiders balloon using multiple strands of silk that splay out in a fan-like shape. Why is it that some days there are large numbers that take to the air, while other days no spiders will attempt to balloon at all? This question remains unanswered. Probably because it's a bloody Mandela effect. Remember the wind thing? Well, in one of the articles that mentions Darwin, it says, quote, Darwin noticed that hundreds of spiders would inexplicably land on the Beagle, even on a calm day, without any wind to blow them on board, unquote. So if this is the case, then why have scientists believed for all of these years that spiders needed wind to balloon? Because in this new experiment, it has been established that they do not need wind. Something doesn't make sense here. And then we have shedding spiders. So this was posted in my Facebook group, and even the original poster, who is not Mandela affected as far as I know, wasn't aware that this happens. Like people, spiders move by contracting muscles attached to a skeleton. But instead of an internal skeleton covered in flesh, spiders have an exoskeleton, a stiff support structure on the outside of the body. Exoskeleton segments are connected together with joints so the spider can move them back and forth. Muscles attached on the inside of the exoskeleton contract to move the legs inward, but spiders don't have any muscles to extend the legs back out again. Instead, they have to force bodily fluids, mainly blood, into the legs to push them outward. If a spider loses too much body water, it can't generate the necessary hydraulic pressure to push its legs out. This is why you sometimes see spiders on their backs with their legs curled up. The exoskeleton is made of several layers of cuticle, a composite material containing various proteins and chitin, a long-chain polysaccharide, sugar. The chitin and protein molecules are arranged in long chains, in successive layers, like the grain in plywood. This structure makes cuticle extremely strong, as well as highly effective at keeping the spider from drying out. But the material does have one serious drawback. While it's flexible enough for movement, it can't expand like human bones and tissue. In other words, it can't grow. In order to increase its size, the spider has to form a new, larger cuticle exoskeleton and shed its old one, and this is called molting. Molting occurs frequently when a spider is young, and some spiders may continue to molt throughout their life. At the appropriate time, hormones tell the spider's body to absorb some of the lower cuticle layer in the exoskeleton and begin secreting cuticle material to form the new exoskeleton. The new exoskeleton is typically folded to some extent, so it can expand once the spider sheds the older one. The spider also secretes a molting fluid between the old exoskeleton and the new one. Once the new exoskeleton is finished, the spider absorbs the molting fluid. This creates a gap between the two exoskeletons, which makes it easier to separate them. To shed the old exoskeleton, the spider has to bust out from the inside. It increases its heart rate to pump a lot of hemolymph, the spider's blood, from the abdomen into the cephalothorax. The pressure expands the cephalothorax, which pushes on the old exoskeleton until it cracks. The spider flexes its muscles until the old exoskeleton falls away. Typically, the spider does most of its growing immediately after losing the old exoskeleton, while the new exoskeleton is highly flexible. The new exoskeleton is also very soft in this stage, making the spider particularly vulnerable to attack. Many species will lower themselves on a silk line during the molting process, so they're out of reach of predators while the cuticle material hardens. Wraparound spiders belong to the Dolophonus genus, and there are 17 species that are endemic to Australia and parts of Oceania. They're able to flatten themselves so perfectly against the surface of a branch because of their unique body shape. The abdomen is shaped like an inverted dish, so the spider's concave underbelly can hug the curves of a tree just like its fuzz-covered legs. Its camouflage, which is spectacular, is aided by the peculiar pattern of oval discs that run across the abdomen, giving the wraparound spider its other nickname, the leopard spider. As with most spiders, the wraparound spider is more active at night and will spring to life in the dark to construct a vertical orb web. Before the sun comes up, it will destroy its web and take its position on a branch once more to hide out during the day. So yes, if you make a habit out of grabbing random tree branches in the bush of an afternoon, you are at risk of getting a shock from a Dolophonus spider. The good news is that they belong to the Aranida family of orb weavers, which do wield venom but it's not particularly dangerous to humans. It just hurts. Then we have the surfing spider. Yes, Brian the surfing spider. Jesus. The article is dated 2016. That was roughly when this spider was discovered, but it seemed to pop its head up first in 2018. It uses vibrations or waves on the surface of the water to navigate and find prey in the freshwater streams of Brisbane, Queensland. Brian can eat tadpoles, fish, frogs and cane toads, researchers say, but isn't dangerous to humans. Officially known as Dolomides Brian Greenay, was named in honour of string theorist and World Science Festival co-founder Professor Brian Greene. And then came the Tarantula Hawk. This for me goes way over the boundary. I don't have a fear of spiders, even though some of these things here do sort of make my hair stand up on end a little bit. But this got me. A tarantula hawk is a spider wasp that hunts tarantulas. So, I mean, if you have a fear of tarantulas, I mean, this bastard actually hunts them. The more familiar species are up to 2 inches long, which is quite big, okay, for these effers, making them amongst the largest of wasps. By the way, I have a wasp phobia, so this is probably why this one gets me. Okay, some also have blue-black bodies and bright rust-coloured wings. Other species have black wings with blue highlights. I mean, they're beautiful to look at, well, as far as the colours are concerned. The vivid coloration found on their bodies, and especially wings, is an aposematism, advertising to potential predators the wasp's ability to deliver a powerful sting. Are you surprised that I have a wasp phobia? Their long legs have hooked claws for grappling with their victims. I'm surprised no one's made a horror movie out of this. I can just see it now. Tarantula hawk wasps are relatively docile and rarely sting without provocation. However, the sting, particularly that of the female, yes, we females can be real bitches, is among the most painful of all insects. Though the intense pain only lasts about 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes is not a long time in some things, but with this, I think 5 minutes is probably an eternity. One researcher described the pain as immediate, excruciating, unrelenting pain that simply shuts down one's ability to do anything except scream. Mental discipline simply does not work in these situations. In terms of scale, the wasp's sting is rated near the top of the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, second only to that of the bullet ant, and is described by Schmidt as blinding, fierce, and shockingly electric. Jeez. I'm almost sweating just describing this. Because of their extremely large stingers, very few animals are able to eat them. One of the few that can is a roadrunner. Many predatory animals avoid these wasps, me too, and many different insects mimic them, including various other wasps and bees, as well as moths, flies, for example, the Midas fly, and beetles. Aside from the possibility of triggering an allergic reaction, the sting is not dangerous and does not require medical attention. Local redness appears in most cases after the pain and lasts for up to a week. Moving very quickly on to the next one. The ability of mothers to produce milk for their babies is commonly considered a unique feature of mammals, but now scientists have discovered a species of spider that also nurses its young. Spider mothers were observed feeding a milk-like substance to their spiderlings and continuing to look after them almost into adulthood. Lactation-like feeding is known elsewhere in the animal kingdom. Pigeons and flamingos produce something called crop milk from a gland in their neck. However, the intensity and duration of maternal care observed in the spider species is considered highly unusual. The observations focused on a species of jumping spider, normally found in Taiwan, which lives in nests and mimics the appearance of ants. The newly hatched spiderlings were found to be entirely dependent on nutritious spider milk, containing nearly 4 times the protein of cow's milk, secreted and fed to them by their mothers. The scientists observed that the spiderlings first drank from droplets of spider milk left on the surface of the nest, and then by directly sucking from the mother's egg-laying opening. The spider mothers continued to care for and feed their offspring for nearly 40 days, long after they were able to forage on their own and almost until the point of sexual maturity. After the spiderlings were able to forage for themselves, the milk was not critical to the offspring's survival, but appeared to boost their overall health and chances of survival as adults. This newfound trapdoor spider isn't a true albino, since it also has some pigment. Its body is brown like those of other trapdoor spiders, but the 1.2-inch wide arachnid has been dubbed the albino trapdoor spider until it's formally described as a new species. A person in a small town in Western Australia found the strange-looking spider near his house, captured it in a jar and sent it to the museum. I wonder if he sent it per post. Unfortunately, we know nothing about its life history. We presume that they live in burrows for their entire lives, like all trapdoor spiders, and when males mature, they wander in search of females in their burrows, Harvey said. Trapdoor spiders get their name because they use soil, vegetation, and silk to construct doors to their burrows that are hinged with silk. The arachnids then pop out when they feel the vibrations of passing prey, which includes insects, other arthropods, and small invertebrates. The newfound spider is considered rare. Harvey added, it's currently the only known specimen of its kind. Meet Colossus, the world's most toxic spider, along with the Brazilian wandering spider, and as far as I can tell, the second largest funnel web spider, named after its unusually shaped web in the world. Very recently found and handed into the Australian Reptile Park, Colossus has a leg span of 3 inches, the size of a credit card. It has been known to grow up to 10 centimeters in size, and its large rear-facing fangs are strong enough to pierce toenails and even soft boots. Its venom short-circuits the nervous system. Synapses and nerves go into overdrive, producing a racing heart, high blood pressure, and breathing difficulty. The human body can't handle this for long. Its venom can take down a human in just 15 minutes. Luckily for Australia, no one has died from a funnel web spider bite since 1981, the year antivenom became available. According to the article, spider experts were warning of a home invasion after recent wet weather had drawn spiders like Colossus indoors. Ever heard of a bunny harvestman? Although technically not a spider, but a type of arachnid better known as daddy longlegs. Belonging to the order Opiliones, there are more than 6,650 species of harvestmen all across the planet. And fossil records show that they've been around for a long time. Contrary to a common belief, harvestmen do not have venom glands and are absolutely harmless. Harvestmen have been around for at least 400 million years and lived even before the dinosaurs. This species was discovered in 1959 by German arachnid specialist Carl Friedrich Röver. Why the strange head? Well, scientists aren't quite sure. For some reason, the arachnid has evolved this dark body, 2 ear-like protrusions, and bright yellow false eyes. Its real eyes are located further down its body. It is believed that this unique body shape could benefit the arachnid by making it look bigger to predators, but these ideas haven't been tested. In fact, the animal hasn't been studied extensively, and there are very few published papers on it since its discovery almost 60 years ago. The scorpion spider, or camel spider, is technically not a spider but a scorpion. It does, however, belong to the arachnid group. Thomas Acosta, a builder, recently came across this creature near his home in Phoenix, Arizona, where he has lived for the past 37 years and never saw a camel spider ever before. He said, "I didn't know they're native to Arizona. I have seen camel spiders, but I've heard of them in Iraq." Because of its gigantic jaw, the camel spider can grow large enough to eat small lizards, rodents, and even birds. The good news, kind of, is that although they look absolutely terrifying, camel spiders actually are not venomous. So if you ever come across one, it's unlikely to hurt you in any way. What I also must point out here is that one of the photos is kind of fake. Well, technically it's not fake, but it's misleading. Due to false perspective, the camel spider in this photo appears 8 to 10 times bigger than it actually is. For the first time, a false widow spider has been recorded feeding on Ireland's only native lizard. This article is dated 2018, July 2018. The hunted becomes the hunter. Lizards normally eat spiders, so to find a spider eating a lizard is unusual in itself. What's more, I am pretty sure we never had a spider called false widow in the UK, let alone venomous ones. According to the article, false widow spiders arrived in Ireland in the 1980s. I found an article from 2003 on an attack in Romania. The deadliest species of the black widow spider is thought to have found its way into some of Europe's coastal resorts after a spate of attacks that left 2 people dead and a further 11 in hospital within the past fortnight. The black widow, one of the world's most poisonous spiders, is common in North and Central America and is also found in parts of Central Asia. Its venom contains latrodectin, a powerful toxin that attacks the nervous system and can lead to death within hours. A less venomous variety is occasionally reported in parts of southern Europe, but the species responsible for the deadly attacks is believed to be the Latrodectus tridecim-guttatus, normally confined to Asia. Another article from 2014. In the south of England, an actress was bitten by a false widow spider. According to this article, false widows were first sighted in Devon in 1879. The article goes on to say, there are 7 types of false widow spider in the UK, but the kind associated with bites is the noble false widow. It's one of a dozen larger species of spider in Britain that can give a nasty bite. Apparently, noble false widows, about 2 centimeters wide, which is big enough as far as I'm concerned, including their legs, nest anywhere that's dark and damp. Yet another article from the BBC from 2013 goes on to describe how false widows are prevalent in France and Spain. Meet the mirror spider, also known as the sequined spider, who have shape-shifting silver abdomens and look like they walked off an 80s disco dance floor. Although this was apparently spotted in 2013, possibly earlier because the photographer who spotted this says in his blog post of 2013 that he has already been observing these spiders for years. Quote, "For several years I have been observing the odd behavior of the mirror spider, where the silver plates on the abdomen seem to shrink when the spider is agitated or perhaps threatened, revealing the actual abdomen. At rest, the silver plates expand and the spaces between the plates close up to become an almost uniform reflective surface. As far as the skimpy wiki page is concerned, well, this just confirms my belief that this is a Mandela effect. As someone else pointed out on my post about this in my Facebook group yesterday, this is indicative of Mandanimals, lack of history, no discovery dates. Thanks, Alicia. In another article from Bored Panda, they also say that there is not much known about this spider, even though we have now had over 6 years to find out. Most photos I've seen of the spider comes from this one photographer who apparently spotted this spider in Singapore and observed and photographed it over years. What, the very same spider? The very same spider remained in the very same spot for years to enable this photographer to study it and take pictures? Usually, when I find only one photo of an unusual animal, it is for me a clue that it's fake. But this is not fake. It isn't photoshopped either. So why don't we know much about this spider when clearly they're not so hard to find, as this photographer has demonstrated? Unless, as I said, he photographed the very same spider day in, day out for years. If you look at his blog, you can also see that he has updated it with photos of mirror spiders that he has since found in Peru 2015, Madagascar 2018, and Mozambique. While this may or may not be evidence of quantum shifting, I find this article a bit strange for a couple of reasons. One, the article is dated 2018 and is only 5 months old, but it references a new discovery from 2005, which I think is really weird. And two, the article is vague. They talk about 7 new species of spider, including one that is record-breaking, that were found in a relatively short space of time, which is rare in itself, but they don't specify when or how long this period of time was. And this is an article from National Geographic. I just wanted to include this in the video as it raises questions for me and has the typical giveaways as far as I'm concerned. I've included the link below. Take a look at it and decide for yourselves. So, no spider quantum shifting video is complete without the Spider-Verse. So here it is. The new animated Marvel movie, Into the Spider-Verse. It has alternate timelines, a CERN-like super collider, other dimensions, and Mandela effect-like things dispersed all throughout it. Plus, it's super funny and the soundtrack rocks. Thanks to Josh for posting this. Residents in a rural area of southern Minas Gerais state have reported skies raining spiders, a phenomenon which experts say is typical in the region during hot, humid weather. Firstly, if this is so typical for this region, why are the locals freaking out? And secondly, why is this video from Brazil the only video available on this phenomenon? The date of the article, 11th January 2019, is also the date when many of us noticed a sudden influx of possible new quantum shifting events and reports. Videos were posted all over the place on social media and apparently it went viral. Well, it never viraled past me, and seemingly others missed it too. So the article describes an event that happened in South Brazil this summer. I'm assuming they're talking about the summer of 2018, where spiders were observed, get this, hanging in the skies. The explanation also slightly differs than the others from the beginning of this video. In 2013, the same phenomenon made international headlines when residents in southern Brazil registered raining spiders around telephone poles. While it looks like the spiders are falling from the sky, they are actually hanging in a giant web to catch prey, said a biology professor specializing in arachnology. The species is a rare social spider And the community web they build is so fine that it is nearly impossible for the human eye to see, giving the illusion that the spiders are floating on air. So I guess they just wanted to be shared on Facebook, right? During the day, the spiders nest in a giant ball in the vegetation, emerging in the early evening to construct the giant web ceiling which hangs between trees and bushes. Each web can measure up to 4 meters wide and 3 meters thick. At dawn, they feast on prey they have caught overnight, usually small insects, but sometimes even small birds, before retreating to the vegetation again. Witnessing a sky full of spiders may be unnerving, but Dos Santos said humans have nothing to fear. The venom of this species is not harmful to human, and its bite causes little more discomfort than a red ant bite. Next thing we know, we will be seeing pink spiders. So, from what I can ascertain, they're saying that the spiders which cause the massive spider webs on the ground, like those at the beginning of this video, are stretch spiders, long spiders around 2 centimeters in size. And the spiders that hang in the air are much larger. So, different spider species. Yet they also say that these two are linked, that the webs on the ground are a result of a failed mass migration. Or am I missing something here? All I see is contradiction after contradiction. And may I add, I always believed spiders to be loners, but just in this video, we now have 3 different types of spider that seem to work within a colony and communicate in some way with each other. Meet the whip spider. Their front legs have been transformed into long whips, which they flail ahead of their bodies in search of prey. Anything unfortunate enough to make contact gets grabbed by its massive pincers, each twice as long as the animal itself and tipped in fiendish spikes. They can grow up to 70 centimeters. Go get a ruler. These spiders communicate with each other by means of vibration. Is this how the ballooning rain spiders communicate? The spider is an ancient symbol of mystery, power, and growth. We take our first lesson from the ancient symbol of the spider by contemplating its web. Just as the spider weaves a web, so too must we weave our own lives. The spider symbol meaning here serves as a reminder that our choices construct our lives. When the spider appears to us, it is a message to be mindful of the choices we're making. In many myths, the web is key to special spider meaning. Together, both spider and web are symbolic of fate, destiny, and the crazy ways we cross paths in life's diverse web. The infinity symbol meanings occur when we consider most spiders have 8 eyes and all have 8 legs. The number 8 is also a symbol of infinity or lemniscate, an 8 turned on its side. The vibrational frequency indicates the meaning of number 8 involves cycles, passage of time, and evolution. When spider slides in as spirit animal, it's time to weave your wishes into reality. Spider as a totem animal belongs to those who are the maker and keeper of their own destiny. Invoke spider as your power animal when you need balance to walk in the world with ease. In several traditions, the spider symbolizes the mother and the divine feminine. In ancient Egypt, the spider represented the goddess of the divine mother, Neith. In some American Indian tribes, the spider symbolizes the creator of the world and therefore is held in high regard for its feminine energy. And of course, do not forget the dream catcher, which is also made up of a spider web. Dream catchers are the most recognizable Native American symbol in the country today, in the world. For many Native Americans, they represent tradition and the dream catcher legends that have been handed down for generations. For some, they are the symbol of Native American unity. By learning the meanings behind these beautiful woven circles, you can gain a deeper appreciation of the craft and the beliefs behind their creation. Dream catchers are thought to have originated with the Ojibwe tribe of the plains, but many other tribes, such as the Chippewa and LAKOTA, have their own versions of the dreamcatcher legend. The first non-Native American documentation was by a scholar named Francis Densmore in 1929. Although there are many variations, a dreamcatcher is basically a small circle of wood that is tied with sinew or thread to resemble a web with a small hole in the middle. The strings or sinews are tied at several points on the circle, with the number of points on the dreamcatcher having different meanings. 13 points is the 13 phases of the moon. 8 points is the number of legs on the Spider Woman of the dreamcatcher legend. 7 points, the 7 prophecies of the grandfathers. 6 points, an eagle or courage. 5 points is the star. A dreamcatcher can also have a feather tied to the bottom and beads or animal tokens hanging on the strands. Traditional dream catchers are only a few inches in diameter, but you will see contemporary models anywhere from a few inches to 1 foot across. Legend says that when hung above the bed in a place where the morning sunlight can hit it, the dream catcher attracts and catches all sorts of dreams and thoughts into its webs. Good dreams pass through and gently slide down the feathers to comfort the sleeper below. Bad dreams, however, are caught up in its protective net and destroyed, burnt up in the light of day. Each tribe has a similar dreamcatcher legend, but each legend has slightly different twists that are particular to that region of the country. The Ojibwe legend is the story of how the Spider Woman brought the sun back to the people of the world. Once the Ojibwe people were gathered together as one nation, as the people dispersed to the 4 corners of North America. Asibikashi, the Spider Woman, swore that she would continue to take care of the children, but couldn't get to each bed every night. The woman of the tribe wove magic webs shaped like a circle, which is how the sun travels through the sky, and hung them over the cradle boards. Just as the Spider Woman traps insects in her sticky web, the bad dreams are trapped in the web of the dreamcatcher and perish as the sun hits them every morning. Many mothers tied a feather to the hoop in the center, representing breath or air. The baby would watch the feather and be entertained as it danced on the wind above its head. The Chippewa legend says that dream catchers were made to prevent children from awakening with the fear of the bad dreams still in their eyes. Mothers wove a web on a willow hoop while saying sacred words and thinking happy thoughts. They would hang the sacred feathers from the center so that when the good dreams find their way to the center, they will float down the feathers and sprinkle onto the sleepers. An owl feather stood for wisdom and was placed above the beds of girls, while an eagle feather stood for courage and was placed above the beds of boys. The Lakota legend describes a legend where an old spiritual leader had a vision. IKTOMI, the great teacher and trickster, appeared as a spider. IKTOMI took the elder's willow hoop and began to spin a web as he spoke of the cycle of life from infant to old age. He told the elder that if you listen to the good ideas, the forces at work will steer you in the right direction. If you listen to the bad, the forces will steer you in the bad direction. IKTOMI told him that the good ideas will be caught in the web, but the bad ones will go through the hole and not stick as it sifts the dreams and visions of his people. Spider Grandmother is an important figure in the mythology, oral traditions and folklore of many Native American cultures, especially in the southwestern United States. In Hopi mythology, Spider Grandmother is the creator of humans, identified with the Earth Goddess. In Navajo mythology, Spider Woman is the constant helper and protector of humans. According to the Zuni, string games were given to them by Grandmother Spider. On that note, I am going to finish the video by reading to you some excerpts from a website whose link was sent to me by a very special friend who always seems to be there at the right time. It is titled Grandmother Spider and the Web of Life, written by Susan Weed. I have provided the link below. When the universe was still so dark that not even shadows could be seen in the night, Grandmother Spider sat in her web in the sky world, waiting and watching. No one knows how old Grandmother Spider is, or how long she sat waiting for the universal mind to awaken. But every creature being who has ever lived knows her song and dance as the weaver of the web of life. From her web, Grandmother Spider observed the first thoughts as the universal mind awakened from the dream. 7 energy beings floated out from the shining light in the center of the universal mind and solidified into bright shining stars, who went out to take their places in the sky world. Grandmother Spider took a very deep breath and softly began to sing her weaving song while she danced across the sky. As she spun her thread, Grandmother Spider envisioned the web of life. Within moments, she had woven her web, connecting the 7 stars and creating the spirit doorway through which all of the rest of life would enter. The 7 stars reflected the spectrum of all colors within their glow. Dancing with the colored light, shadows came into being as the darkness took form. More thoughts flowed from the universal mind, entered through the doorway of the 7 stars, and took their places in the sky world. These became more stars, suns, and planets. Then, many other thoughts entered the universe, each one taking a specific place according to the universal dream of harmony. Each thought was a spirit essence who dreamed an individual dream for manifesting life. Grandmother Spider spun her web around each new energy being, and the universal web of life shimmered in the reflection of Great Mystery's light. Singing her song and weaving the web of life, Grandmother Spider continued with her work. The sky world filled with light and life as her creative process unfolded. As the stars, suns, and planets prepared to give birth to their children, Grandmother Spider spun her cord even longer, so that all of the newly born could be included in the web of life. Grandmother Spider continues to weave the web of life throughout every cycle of creation. All life everywhere in the universe is connected by the web of life. We are not separate beings. We are each a part of the great mystery, manifesting as an individual awareness in a separate physical body, but sharing the same energy as all other life. The energy web is anchored within our center and is our connection to the great mystery. Along with Grandmother Spider's web cord, we carry within our center our dream for living that includes a promise and a purpose. Before we came into the Earth Walk, we chose the gifts and talents that help us create the reality that we envisioned. We also chose the lessons and challenges that motivate our learning and growth. Our dream for living carries a specific vibration of sound and color that guides our spirit essence in its flight from the universal mind, through the sacred cave and into the womb of our physical mother. During our Earth Walk, we live our choices and lessons and develop our talents and gifts as we meet each situation and challenge of our growth. We must remember our purpose and promise and focus our life in this direction if we are to be happy and fulfilled. The gift of Grandmother Spider is the personal energy web that we walk with throughout our entire life. This energy web allows our spirit essence to experience our senses, emotional feelings, and physical pain and pleasures. This connection also allows our physical body to develop an intuitive perception of universal wisdom. Through the web, we can work with energy for creativity and healing. Our personal energy web maintains our connection to the web of life and the great mystery. This gift of Grandmother Spider ensures that we are never alone, for through it we always share the love of all our relations. Our energy web surrounds our physical body, enveloping it with a vibrating energy that is our personal rhythm. Our energy web is connected to our physical body through energy centers that are the communication channels between our physical body and spirit essence. Our mind is the link between body and spirit essence, interpreting and directing the flow of energy back and forth. Breathing and movement enables our body to direct energy and our thoughts to affect our physical health. To live in comfort, we need to maintain a balance of body, mind, and spirit within our personal energy web. Grandmother Spider is always busy with her work, as the creation of life is happening at every moment. After connecting each creature being with her vibrating threads, Grandmother Spider goes on to the next, spinning out a continuous chord in her never-ending dance. A creature being enters the earthwalk, then a plant person, a stone person, a water person, a four-legged, a two-legged, and on and on. For each of these, Grandmother Spider weaves a personal energy web and extends her cord out from this creature's center to continue on with the weaving of the web of life. The web of life is a beautiful braid that holds the energy of all life together. Grandmother Spider's dance of spinning and weaving continues indefinitely, as new patterns within the web are being woven every moment when each new life enters the earthwalk. At the other end of Grandmother Spider's tapestry, the web is always unraveling, as every spirit essence travels back through the doorway of the sacred cave to the spirit world when life is complete. All life shares an equal place within the web of life. The gifts and contributions of each and every creature being are very important for the survival of Mother Earth. Each creature being, in following through with the performance of their specific life task, affects the welfare of all the other creature beings in the web. Without the benefit of even one creature's work, the web of life would lack the energy of wholeness necessary for the circle of life's cycles to continue on with their rhythm.